It's been, I think, over 5 or 6 months since this game has been released. Well, technically, the actual release was a lot sooner since the game was in open beta for a while, but right now the top tier is tier 8, and a lot of players have asked me which tier 8 vehicle is the best, and one of the most common questions that I see is, should I go with the Leopard A1A1 or the T-55A or the T-62? Which one of these three medium tanks is the best? Now, I've been driving all of them, and today I'll share my experience with all of the three vehicles. Now, I will start with the Leopard here. This is currently the vehicle that I'm driving mostly. I've been really enjoying the Leopard A1A1. It's a fantastic tank. And, well, let's take a look at the stats. Now, it has, definitely the Leopard A1A1 has the best main gun if we compare it with the T-55 and the T-62. It has a 105mm main gun. It is also very fast, 85 km per hour. It has a fantastic reverse speed of 25 km per hour. 20 horsepower per ton is the specific power ratio. It weighs 42 tons. It has 4 crew members. It has 302mm average penetration. 6.7 seconds is the reload. Very fast rotating turret with 24 degrees per second. Although the Leopard's weak spot is definitely the armor. It is not nearly as armored as the T-55 or the T-62. Although in high tier, having no armor is not going to be, affecting much, because you will still be penetrated by most guns. Armor isn't really that important for high tier battles, and that's basically why a lot of players like to drive the Leopard. After all, it is a tank that is kind of, it goes along with the with high skill. Definitely a tank that will reward a skilled player. Now let's take a look at the T-55, T-55A first. It has a 100mm main gun. It is a bit slower, 50 km per hour. Its reverse speed is very slow if you compare it with the Leopard. Speed power is 16 horsepower per ton. It weighs 36 tons, so it's actually a lighter vehicle, but it's slower, which is kind of interesting. Yeah, I guess it has a slower engine. For a crew member, 298mm penetration, 10.5 seconds the reload, turret rotation speed is 15 degrees per second, but we see that the frontal protection is really good. But as I already mentioned, armor in high tier is not going to make much of a difference, since most of the shells will easily just go through the armor of this vehicle. But if you angle it correctly, you might be able to bounce some shells, although in the end armor isn't really going to make much of a difference in high tier. But it's a decent tank still, and it plays very similar to the T-55, to the T-54, my apologies. And then there is the T-62. Now the T-62 has a 115mm main gun. It goes 50 km per hour, reverse 8 km per hour, speed power is 16 horsepower per ton. Its mass is 37 tons, so there's very little difference between the T-62 and the T-55. Actually, when we look at the protection there, the T-55 has better protection, although the T-62 is a very small, low-profile vehicle. It's short, so you can basically take advantage of the low profile of the vehicle. And surprisingly, it has lower average penetration than the T-55A, but you get APFSDS ammo on this thing, which penetrates up to 400mm, which is really good. It has a bit faster rate of fire, 9.2 seconds. The turret rotation is also about the same, bit faster, but not much of a difference, and lower protection. Now the Leopard has APFSDS, it also has heat, and it has hash. And overall, the main gun on the Leopard is definitely much better than the main gun that we see on the T-55A. So let's see how these vehicles perform in combat. Now, from my personal experience driving all of the three vehicles, I kind of feel like the T-55A does feel the, well, not the worst, but the T-55A kind of feels outclassed and outmatched by the T-62, and especially outmatched by the Leopard A1A1. I mean, the Leopard A1A1 seems to have overall much better performance in combat, especially after we look at the main gun performance. The Leopard just has much more, let's say, advantage over the T-55A when it comes to maneuverability, speed, and overall rate of fire. Now, this little position is very good for this vehicle, since you can kind of only have the turret exposed, although I also like to go on the side here, and a T-10A right in the middle, and yeah, that killed the driver, the loader, and it killed the engine. Now, the T-55A's ammo has 4 different types. It has AP, APDS, APBC, it has high explosive, and it has heat. Although I'm not really a big fan of using heat, I'm mostly using APDS on the T-55, but the Leopard has much better ammo types, and of course the Leopard has HEATFS, which is one of the few heat ammo types that I actually like to use. But primarily I'm still using the APFSDS on the Leopard. Now the T-62 has APFSDS, which is actually 2 types of APFSDS. One less penetration and the other with more penetration. I actually use both, depending on the target that I'm shooting at. Sometimes it's better to shoot with the lower penetrating APFSDS, sometimes it's better to shoot with the other one. It's also important to note that all of the vehicles are stabilized, which means that their turret is not going to wave all around the map when you're driving. You can shoot on the move, but the Leopard stabilization feels to be, I would say, the smoothest. The T-62 is also pretty smooth, but the T-55, I don't know, that tank feels kind of weird to shoot on the move. And maybe it's the outdated, well, not outdated design, but the T-55A feels just like a incremental update over the T-54. And honestly, when we have to compare the T-55 and the Leopard, I would definitely say the Leopard is well, not exactly the superior vehicle, but definitely will do better if you know what you're doing with the medium tank. Now, if you compare the platoons, this is where things get a bit interesting, because there is one vehicle in the T-55A platoon that is kind of considered to be the best medium tank in the game at the moment, and that is the IT-1. Now, I didn't put the IT-1 in this video because the IT-1 is more comparable to the ATGM missile and TOW carriers. After all, it uses rockets basically, well, ATGMs, and I will compare the IT-1 with the other ATGM vehicles. Wouldn't be really fair because, you know, the IT-1, if we look at the IT-1 as a medium tank, which, you know, it is a medium tank, it's actually one of the very few, if not the only medium tank with missiles. It's a tank that doesn't use a cannon, but it uses missiles, and just that fact alone makes the IT-1 literally the best medium tank in the game at the moment. It might not have, you know, it's not that fast. It is very low profile though, that's for sure. It's a very small vehicle, very hard to hit, very easy to hide. And the way you aim basically allows you to be completely hidden in plain sight, only the missile being on top of the tank, being exposed to the other hostile vehicles. So it allows you to be 100% safe while being able to eliminate any vehicle within sight. And that alone That fact alone makes the IT-1 literally the best medium tank in the game at the moment, because if you want to be hidden, you will be hidden and no one can do anything about it. Which is something that you can do with the T-55, you can do that with the T-62, and you can do that with the Leopard A1A1. Now, the Leopard A1A1 is a pretty big tank. It's one of the largest medium tanks that we have. I mean, it's basically kind of a huge box, so it is very easy to, well, to hit. Now, at the same time, the Leopard also does have some very interesting survivability features. It is huge and boxy, and there is a lot of room inside, so if you, let's say, get hit by a APFSDS shell and if it misses the ammo, it has a very good chance to just go right through the vehicle and to do no damage, or to just kill the engine or transmission, or maybe just one crew member. Which is not exactly something that you can easily do on the T-55 or T-62, since the other medium tanks are small and compact, and you know, everything is close to each other. The crew members are close to each other inside of the vehicle. So if you get penetrated from the front, all the crew members will get hit, and basically one shot kills the tank in most cases. And also one thing that's very unique to the Leopard A1A1, if the gunner gets killed, the commander takes his place immediately. Basically, if your gunner is killed, the crew members just switch commands and the commander just takes control, and you can shoot immediately even after your gunner is killed. You can do that on the T-55, you can't do that on the T-62, and you can't do that on the IT-1, because it doesn't have that feature. It's a very nice feature that's kind of exclusive to the Leopard within this tier, and the only other tank that comes to my mind that can do the same is the STRV-103C, the pancake tank. It can also basically operate with only one crew member alive, which, you know, is very awesome, since only one crew member can operate the whole vehicle, and that is a very interesting thing to have in combat. Well then, 6 kills. That was a very nice match with the Leopard A1A1. Again, I've been enjoying this vehicle a lot, and it is a very rewarding vehicle if you know what you're doing with it. Now, let's go and play around with the T-62. Now, honestly, I think the Leopard A1A1 is more comparable to the T-62 than it is comparable to the T-55A. The T-55A kind of feels like the worst. Well, I see the worst. I had success with it, but it definitely doesn't feel... It feels like rank 7 or tier 7.5. Doesn't really feel like it's a fully fledged tier 8 vehicle. But that's just me. It honestly feels more like the T-54 than it feels like the T-55A. Maybe that's just, you know, the reason why it's such a small upgrade over T-55 or T-54. But the T-62 does have a very interesting upgrade over the T-55A. Primarily, the low profile is I would say, the most important change. This is a very small vehicle, and you can basically be very hard to spot and can be very hard to hit as well. Now, it does suffer from the same problems that the other tanks suffer from. Basically, the fuel tank at the front, very compact interior, and everything is basically clumped close to each other, so if it gets penetrated, it usually just means that the tank dies, and you can't just do anything about it. Now, this position here is really good, and I'm using the APFSDS ammo, the magic dart as I like to call it. This ammo is really good, performs really well, it's very fast, very similar to how the Leopard's APFSDS performs. Same mechanics, although the Leopard's APFSDS is better, it has more penetration, although it's stabilized, so you will have no issues while shooting, and the overall tank stability is nice. Now, the difference in maneuverability is of course going to be the reverse speed and the top speed. You get more armor, but As we have already seen, armor doesn't really mean much, since in high tier everything just penetrates everything, and you can't really rely on the armor in high tier. Now, you can angle the T-62 in such a way that it bounces shells or does minimal damage. You can do that. Something you can't really do on the Leopard, since the Leopard's literally paper, has no armor. Although the Leopard has maneuverability, so that's a big bonus over the T-62, which is, you know, obviously a much slower vehicle. And being slow, necessarily not a big deal, but in some cases, especially if you're driving a medium tank, speed is important. After all, it is a medium tank; they're supposed to be fast. And while the speed on the T-62 isn't the best, it's also not the worst. And I can't really complain about the speed. It gets the job done, so I'll definitely won't complain. And I also like the shell ejection on the T-62. This game's attention to detail is very nice. The attention to detail is fantastic. So, and of course this is with the new graphics. So, yeah. I also how my R30 got some pretty good kills there. I believe both tanks have thermal vision as well. So when they add night operations, both vehicles will be able to operate at night. I can't wait for night missions to be available. Should be really interesting. So I think I covered most of the main things about the vehicles, and now the main question: which one of the vehicles should you get first? And also that's a pretty good question, because I would say if you prefer a more armored vehicle, if you have already experience with slow vehicles, and if you like the T-54's gameplay, then the T-55A platoon will definitely be a very nice starting point. However, if you do like a fast vehicle, and if no armor is basically no problem for you, then the Leopard A1A1 and the Leopard 1 are definitely the tanks that you will enjoy more. But I would say try both vehicles out, try both tanks out, and I would say learn both tanks, because you know it's both are very unique vehicles in their own way. And I managed to have fun with both. I did really well with both. So they have, let's say, a different. Well, I would say tanks don't have a personality, but once you drive one and when you go to the second one, you can kind of feel that the tanks do have a different personality to them. Honestly, in my case, since I started to rely more on the terrain and maneuverability and on the main gun, I started to prefer the Leopard over the T-55 or T-62. Now, it doesn't mean that the T-55 or the T-62 are bad tanks. No, they're actually pretty good vehicles. It's just that the Leopard started to suit my gameplay a lot more, and look at this. This is why I love the T-62. It's such a small vehicle, low profile. You can actually shoot between the opening there, and yeah, that was a pretty evil kill. This is the advantage that the T-62 has. With this vehicle, you might be able to find some openings where you can shoot from, openings that are inaccessible to the T-55 or the Leopard A1A1. And this is basically one such position where you can do that. You can just easily shoot below. And this position is, I would say, really good for all the three tanks, but it is especially good for this vehicle since you can literally shoot from total safety. Advantage of having a low profile vehicle, you can just shoot below. There are some maps where you can actually shoot between the buildings, between the small cracks between the buildings, and the T-62 is performing the best in that scenario. So that's one more interesting thing that I can say. It's going good for this medium tank, and well, I did really well with it. I mean, obviously, I've been playing the game quite a bit, so I got used to all the vehicles, but the reverse speed of 8 km/h is definitely not too bad, but and definitely if you're used to a fast reverse speed on the Leopard, then yeah, this might be a problem for you. So if you were used to a very fast tank, then the Leopard is definitely the way to go. But if you don't mind a slow vehicle, then the T-55 is also going to be doing just fine. So that would be it for the T-62 and Leopard A1A1. As I already mentioned, both are fantastic vehicles, and honestly, I've enjoyed both. So with that being said, hope you guys enjoyed. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me down in the comments below. And with that being said, if you want to support me, feel free to like and subscribe. Stay safe, and as always, I'll see you next time.